Very good to see you again. I'll start with the news that came out yesterday that Verdane Oliver has obviously joined Stevenage on loan for the remainder of the season. Just what was the thinking and the reasoning behind that decision?
It's been rumbling on for maybe a week, 10 days. I spoke to Verdane myself last midweek, and said that he had a part to play for us here. I think he was a little bit disappointed coming out of the team after the Derby game, and frustrated maybe after he's had such a long period of time on the sidelines with his injury and everything. Maybe frustrated at the lack of starts, but he could see that until the last couple of weeks the team's results have been really strong, and but this has been going on for a little bit. There's been interest in him, which we would expect, and then I had a conversation with him. I think it might be Monday morning, where he intimated that he felt he wanted to take this opportunity to go out and potentially play more games. Always listen to players. It doesn't mean that automatically happens because we have to look at everything, but I thought it was the right thing to do after listening to Verdane and looking what we have in the squad, things that we might try to add to our group in the next couple of weeks. So I just felt it was right for all parties at this moment, and he got the deal done. He spoke to me again that night, and really good. Thanked me for letting him sort of go out to play football. So I'm sure he'll do a good job for him. With
his departure, is that an area now that you feel you need to add towards for the remainder of this window?
No, not at the moment. Not at the moment. I feel like I say, I think we had to trim, or in my eyes, we had to trim the squad down. But I didn't know who and where, over the course of the window. But this is why we talk about being ready to adapt to whatever, and I have to listen. We have our ideas on the players, but if I can't guarantee a player playing time, which I can't really do with anybody, but once they've been maybe on the bench for 2 months, it's hard for me to say, look, you've got a big part to play here. So I always have honest conversations with players, and but it's up to them to then sort of make use of that info, how they see fit. So I don't feel we need more of what we have in the squad now. So it's not a position I'm looking at particularly right now.
That might part answer my next question then, but I'll still ask it. In terms of the business angle of the deal, does it free up some funds with that wage now off the bill?
Yeah, it does. Yeah, obviously he's only on loan, and we've got a good portion of that wage back on that deal until the end of the season. So it's there if we need it. But it's obviously not specific for a centre forward. It could be for any position. So that money is available for us.
Tyrell Wright has come back to the football club on loan for the remainder of the season. Again, similar question, reasoning behind that. Why did you want to bring him back to the club?
Yeah, well, I spoke to Stephen Gent and Ryan at the start, prior to the window, to be honest, just talking about the strengths of the squad, the potential areas where we need to improve, and I just felt we needed a little bit more pace in our forward areas. I think we've got goal scorers. I think we've got good technical players. I don't think we've got anyone with that outright pace that can stretch teams. And they I gave them a profile, what I'm talking about, and then maybe 10 days ago or so, they spoke to me about Tariq, and obviously I knew about him from his previous time here, but not working with him, and he fitted the profile of everything that we were looking to bring in. And then I spoke to Tariq about the potential coming back, and how we do things, how he would fit in, and I could hear the excitement in his voice about coming back. Obviously, I doubt if it was particularly what I was saying. I think it's more on memories of what he did previous. So listen, we want people who are motivated, who are excited to be at Bradford City. It's a privilege to play for this club. So it was great to hear. And then there was a bit of a delay in the deal. We tried to get it done before the weekend, but unfortunately that was delayed. And but he's with us now. He's trained the last couple of days. So we're delighted to have him.
You talk about that excitement. Is that a bonus for you as a manager that you're bringing a player back to a club where he has fond memories of playing at this club within the last year or so, and he'll know quite a lot of the players that were in the squad back then as well.
Yeah, I think it works two ways really, because obviously for him he feels like I think he feels he has unfinished business because of when he left last time. He obviously at the same time as this year, I think from the other side, the players who did play with him, and obviously the supporters who saw him, already know what he can do. So it's not. I still think he has to prove it again, because that's what football is. You have to constantly prove yourself. You can't just think, well, I played well a year ago, it automatically happens. So, but he's a guy with his feet on the ground. He knows what he has to do. Seen him in training, he works exceptionally hard. So, but the other players know that we've brought a quality player into the group, and I think that's always a positive when players get a mental lift, seeing good quality come through the door and know what their attributes are, and certainly with Tyrell, that's the case.
He was used predominantly as a wide player, but towards the back end of his spell he was also used as a second striker with the top two. How will you look to best use him, Graham?
Well, I spoke to him about this because obviously I watched some of his games at Plymouth as well, and he's been playing wing back there. So I see him in any of the attacking areas really. And the way our wing backs play is quite an attacking sort of position to play in. It's you're forward more than your back. So I think he can play any one of those. We've played with front three in the last couple of games, front two before that, wing backs in the majority of the last 10 or 11 games. So I think he can be a really good addition for all those positions, to be honest. But I don't want to. I've not brought him here to be a utility, messing around, playing all over the place. But I like players that can play in a couple of different positions. I think it gives us options mid-game or for different selection issues. So I think he's just got qualities that any manager would like to have in his team. So it's about finding the right balance with the other good players, because it's not just plonk him in there and disrupt what we've been doing so far. But we're really excited to get him, because he gives us something that I feel we're a little bit short of.
We've spoken to him today. He says that he's set to start. He's fit enough. He can last 60 minutes. That's the player's perspective. Manager's perspective.
60 minutes?
That's what he said, yeah.
Right, okay.
Manager's perspective.
It's 95 minutes, isn't it, a game? Roughly.
I asked that question.
Yeah,
okay,
that's cool.
In what fitness state is he from your perspective?
Yeah, look, this is the really difficult one, because we had him Tuesday, and then obviously he's trained today, so we are assessing him. I haven't seen the data from today. I saw it from Tuesday, and he handled that quite well. So he looks sharp. He looks fit enough. He hasn't played a lot of football, to be fair, since he left, really, over the course of a year. So, we've got him for the next 19-20 games. We have to make sure that we keep him for that 19-20 game period and not just flog him to death. But from what I've seen so far, he could potentially start. But yeah, I can tell you what minute he can last to. But we need, we need players that have high energy. We play in a highly energetic way, and so we want players who can last longer than most. And but we've got different options for those positions. We'll see how he does. But we've got another day to assess him tomorrow as well. But he certainly looks trim enough and ready enough, and he's still at a good age to have loads of energy.
In terms of further additions this window, do you envisage any more? Are you happy with what you've got right now?
I feel we need maybe one other player at the moment with the current squad that we've got. Excuse me. We're discussing behind the scenes about who. We haven't got a defined actual player, but with what we've looked at, what we've done really well over the last 10 or 11 games, where we need to improve. We're looking for a certain type of profile of player that will help us improve again in that. But if we do go for that type of player and get that player, at the moment I'm really happy with what we have in the building.
Is that in a specific area on the field, a particular role?
Yeah. I'm going to keep that to myself for now, because I just want to see how next couple of games go. But yeah, it's something that I feel we're potentially missing to add to our armoury. But honestly, I'm really pleased with what the players are giving us. There's still obviously things we have to improve, but the players are coming to terms with what we want to do. We're still in a part of a period where we've changed from one style of play to another, and the players have got 70, 80, 85% of that really well, which is just that extra bit that we have to go and turn the games in our favour.
I know one of the main ambitions coming into this window was trimming down the squad. Are you any closer in achieving trimming down the squad?
Yeah, there's a couple of inquiries and interested parties in a couple of other players that we have. So so the potential bringing somebody in depends on them moving on. So we'll see how they pan out in the next 24 hours, and if they do, then we'll be in a position to move forward, because there is a budget constraint. We're as in like we can't just go and spend whatever we want to. We have to use it as a business, bring in cash flow to go out and improve the squad. So if those one or two move out, then we'll be able to bring another one in. So we'll see how the next 10 days go also.
Just on Rayan Tulloch, I know I asked you about him a week or so ago, and I think you said at the time that it was likely that he might leave the club. Is that still the case? Greg? Yeah, to be frank, he will be moving on at some point. So it's just about, obviously he's on loan and there's a deal in place, but he understands he's not going to play here. So for a lad of his talent and abilities, he needs to go out and play. I do feel I know his contract's up at the end of the season, so for his own good, he needs to go and play games to make sure he secures his future, sort of thing. So, but he trained with us today. We're doing the right thing by him, but at some point I would expect him to move on. Team news-wise, going into Saturday, how are you shaping up, and have you been able to welcome anyone back into training?
No, not from the injured guys. No, we haven't had any additions from that, unfortunately. I think it's difficult at the moment because obviously with the weather, we've only been on 4G this week, so it's difficult to reintroduce lads who are coming back from an injury onto a surface like that. So it's just been the same squad. We haven't lost anybody from the last squad, but we haven't added any to it. So we're down to roughly about, I think, 18, 19 players, which is fine with me. We've got enough to pick a good team, pick a good bench. So we'll be ready by Saturday.
How close is Jamie Walker?
I think this week maybe knocked him back a little bit. We were looking to potentially get him out on grass. He went out on the grass on Tuesday, but it was like this table. It was rock hard. So we just didn't push him, and it's the same again today. It's going to be the same again tomorrow. So unfortunately the weather's sort of postponed that next step in his sort of return to training. So we'll see. Hopefully, if the weather gets better over the weekend, he can potentially be on the grass. Not with us; it's with the medical team. But that's the next stage of his recovery.
Lewis Richards.
Lewis potentially would be with us tomorrow. We saw him out with us on the 4G, but only in a little sort of managed session, and then joined in one part of ours. So he's going to potentially train with us fully tomorrow, depending on how he feels from today. And then if that goes well, he'll be back in training next week. He'll obviously no part to play on Saturday because he hasn't trained with us since he went out injured.
And Jake Young?
Yeah, Jake's he was around the pitch actually jogging around with Lewis today. He did a little jog on Tuesday, I think it was, around our pitch. So I'm kicking a few balls today with the medical team. I haven't seen Dale since training, but he's progressed each day, which is a positive. Just spoke to him there in the gym and he's feeling good. Fingers crossed that continues in the speed it has.
And just on Jake's situation, I think you said at the weekend at Colchester that you rejected another bid from a club who was interested in Jake's situation, and obviously there's a player in the middle of all this, isn't there? There's bids coming around, bids being rejected, there's a lot of talk about his future. How is he in himself?
I think he's fine. I don't really know, really, on that perspective. I haven't, sat down. I've got 20 odd players to look after, and I expect my first priority at the moment is the ones who are trying to win points for us and playing, and so that's where my main focus is. Listen, for Jake, it's a good place to be. That people want him. you've got to be worried when no one wants you. That's when you've got to feel sorry for yourself. So no, if people want you, it means you've got good potential, you've done a good job, and it's always a good place to be. It's up to each individual to handle it. I'm here if he wants to speak to me about it. I did sit down with Jake a week ago. Sat down and had a proper chat with him about the whole situation, about use my experience as an ex-player. He's the only young player probably experiencing this type of scenario for the first time. So I gave him a little bit of advice, told him where I stood on the situation, how much I want him to be part of our team, from my perspective, I couldn't wait until he was fit.
Do you get the feeling that he wants to stay?
I think there's scenarios. I think he's potentially, when he came back, a little bit confused about everything going on. And he hadn't spoke to me at that particular point, because he wasn't here, and I left him to play at Swindon. So only when he came back in did I have the first conversation with him, and then it sort of snowballed into all the interest and everything like that. So the first time I really sat down with him was last week. There's definitely a scenario there where he would like to stay, but he's got options. There's potentially options. He's got a 2.5-year contract, which obviously he has to honour. We want players staying here for the right reasons, but it's got to be the right reasons for us as well. So there's like with Verdane, we have conversations, we try and work out the best case scenario. But I just wanted Jake to understand from my perspective exactly how I thought, where I saw him in our future, and the potential for future moves, future progression. Doesn't have to just happen in this next 2.5 week window, whatever option or potential option he does take, at 22 you've got to think of your career first and foremost. So but it was a good conversation, and I think he appreciated it. Sat down and had that conversation with him. I wanted him to be clear about my thoughts on everything, instead of reading bits and pieces, joining the gaps through representatives, other clubs, all that sort of stuff. And I made it clear to him, which I think he appreciated, and spoke to him a couple of times, not only on normal good morning, how you doing, this, that, the other, because let's be honest, there's a squad that comes first before any individual, but we care for the players. I understand every player's individual. I've probably experienced everything that they go through over the course of a 24-year career. So I try to have a little bit of empathy for where they sit, and not just look at it from my perspective. I look at it from the clubs, from the players, and from mine, and try to join the dots.
You mentioned that there'd been interest in some of the current squad from other clubs this window. Has the club received any official bids for any of the players in the squad? No. Just inquiries about potential loans, or what their scenario is long term and stuff like that. So just the normal sort of stuff that goes on nearly every day in January, and no, nothing concrete for any of the players. So we'll just see how they progress. And just finally from me, I know you were bitterly disappointed with how things ended at Colchester. Just reflections on that game for you, Graham, and how you've looked to use those reflections this week with the group. Yeah, we just we've given a bit of background into our data from the last 9 league games since Notts County, since we changed. Right, this is how we're going. Since we turned it around, extremely positive a lot. But there's one standout improvement we have to make. So we just focused on that. It's and a little bit of the mistakes, and it was only tiny little mistakes. You couldn't look at one player and say that was a blatant mistake, but just a couple of tactical mistakes we made all in one move. It was three little mistakes, but it was big consequences. We conceded a goal out of nothing, and then immediately went back to what we were doing, and then we're in no trouble for the rest of the game, and we were on the front foot. So that's how dangerous it can be if you lose your focus for 1 minute, for 10 seconds in a game, that you can get punished, and we got punished. But when we looked over the game, it was a game we obviously should have won again, but we want to get to those fine details, and that's what we've sort of focused on. We've got a lot of stuff right, but the games can be sort of down to the finest detail, and that's where we've got to really focus on, because
they're small things, but they're big consequences or big rewards, and that's what we want to get back to. But the player, we wanted to strengthen the players' mindset in what we've done so well in those games as well. And it's not just it's just about this issue. It's listen, look at all this other stuff that we're doing so well. So it's just a little reminder of the progress we've made since Notts County, which has been massive, but there's still more to go, and that's what it is. It's delight with the players what we've done so far, but we're still not where we want to be as a team, or in obviously the league total in points.
Thanks, Graham.
Okay.
Obviously, Yorkshire Derby this weekend. What are you expecting Doncaster to bring in terms of how they play?
I think I went to watch them on Tuesday night, and they played really well. They deserved to win against Wigan in the cup. So I think a good team. I think Grant's changed a few things in their formation and so forth. So, but yeah, they've got their threats. They've got certain individuals that are really good, and they'll be determined because obviously we only played them 5 weeks ago or something. So there's potentially a wounded animal there. But as I say, we've got to focus on our improvement we have to make. If we make that improvement, then I feel we'd put ourselves in the best chance of winning the game.
When you have these, it happens every season, but it's a quick turnaround of a fixture. Does it make it easier to play them again, or is it more difficult because, as you said, wounded animal? If you've won?
I think it's a bit of both, really, because you know a little bit more about each other, so they know more about us, we know more about them, so that's equal because we both the same. There hasn't been a big period of time to change that much between, even though it's in January where that I think they brought in a few additions, us less so, only Tyrell really, and Sam, sorry. So there's pros and cons, to be honest, but look, you could play the same opponent every day of the week for seven days, and it'll still be 7 different games. You know what I mean? Because little things happen at instances, players go in and out of form. So it'll be a different game, without a shadow of a doubt. But it's obviously one we want a similar result. And
obviously the weather this week, as you mentioned. Have you been in touch with the ground staff at Valley Parade?
No, well, that's Mark Harrison just gave me an update on the state of the pitch. It's at the moment it's unplayable. It's obviously rock hard. The weather forecast isn't fantastic until Saturday morning, so we're going to do everything we can to get the game on. We want to play games, but listen, no one can control what's going on above at the moment, and it is quite a few days on the trot. Sometimes it's 24 hours, but it's okay. But if it's day after day, then it can set in. So the experts are down there now with their magic forks trying to warm the pitch up. But hopefully we're going to prepare like the game is there for us. We won't do anything differently. So fingers crossed.
Cheers.
You said Graham at the weekend obviously about there being a second offer for Jake turned down. Has there been any more further interest at all? Because obviously it's well documented, the scenario at the moment.
Yeah, no, I don't think so. Not since obviously there was a lot of talk about it. Was it Tuesday and yesterday? So about one club's interest in particular, but I haven't heard anything of. Was with I spoke to Ryan yesterday. He didn't say anything more about any more bids or anything like that. So it's as it was last time I spoke.
I was going to say, one club commented about it. I mean, what's your sort of stance on a club talking about another club's player? I know it's it's one of them scenarios where some people will mention a scenario and others won't, and then to sort of complain about the price, the alleged price tag.
Yeah, it's wrong. It's plain and simple, it's wrong. I didn't speak about Jake, and he was our player when he was on loan at Swindon, out of respect for him doing a job for Swindon at the time. And I could have spoke to him about him, but I didn't want to. He is wrong, because I spoke to the manager myself last week, who contacted me and asked me about him, and I told him my thoughts on Jake. I didn't want to sell him. So, I couldn't have been any clearer than that. So, look, it's straight after a game. So I know emotions come right. I've been there myself, but there are certain things that no matter what, it's not an excuse. So disappointed from my perspective, because I spoke to the manager myself about Jake. is there an agenda behind it, potentially, about letting a player know? I don't think he has any right at all to set any price on any other team's player, to be honest. So I didn't really get where he was coming from, to be honest. But we were quite clear with him. I was quite clear with him in my conversation, and so we crack on. But but listen, we're all grown adults, and it's a country of free speech. But that's how it is.
As you say, with January and the speculation as it is, it just sort of throws another thing into the pot, doesn't it? Which, from Jake's point of view, or from the player's point of view, it's something else thrown at him.
Yeah, and like I said, I had a clear conversation with the manager myself. Told him that I had no interest in selling Jake Young, that he was part of my plans. I wanted to keep him here. I spoke to Jake myself, made it clear of my thoughts and my ideas about him and us, and then he's decided to say what he said after his game. I think it was completely wrong. I think it was. I don't think it was particularly disruptive to Jake, because I think Jake knows for sure how highly we rate him and value him. And that's the biggest thing, which I told him to my face anyway. But maybe that proves my point even more. So I don't know. He might have done me a favour. I don't know.
And again, slightly bizarrely, I'm back on Tyreek. Obviously, we spoke earlier in the week when Tyrell was signing, and you sort of said about, obviously, you had rave reviews from Ryan and Stephen Jett, and there was sort of a suggestion, well, perhaps are they picking your players to sign for you in a way? I mean, you know how these things can grow legs. I mean, you presumably, obviously, they'll, as you say, you'll identify as a type of player, and if they bring it to you, and presumably it's your final decision each time.
That's pretty much it. Yeah, that's it. If it was left, if all the recruitment was left just to me on my own, and manage a team, and take training, and all that lot, it's impossible. It's impossible. So it's why we have a team of people that work for the same thing. But it's me that picks the team. It's me that goes, that's a good player. This is the profile we look. This is what we need. This is why I'm here. I'm here to pick a team, to manage a team, to use my football expertise, so-called, to do the right things for the team. So, like, explain it quite clearly. This is it. They didn't say, right, you've got him. They said, well, we've got this player who's interested in coming back. Does he fit the profile? Watched him, knew about him. Yes, he does. That's it. I don't know where these things come from, but there's absolutely no issue on that side of it. We've got our boundaries about where we did. Like I said last week, I don't do budgets. I don't do that. I know why I'm here. It's on the football perspective. People have this control. I have this control. They have that control. There's obviously bits that interlink, which there has to be. But no, I'm allowed to manage.
And sort of broadening that point a little bit, obviously, talk about with Ryan, the chief executive. You've obviously got to have a good relationship. I mean, I know Ryan hates his sort of age being mentioned as being one of the youngest chief execs. I mean, how is that done out yourself? Obviously, you're a bit older than the chief exec. I mean,
what are you trying to say?
Slightly. So, how does that sort of work between you, that dynamic? Is it working well?
It works like two blokes working together. That's it. It's the whole age thing. Honestly, until you said that, it's never crossed my mind. How old is he?
31, I think.
Is he that young? Don't look it. So no. Honestly, we work like we're supposed to work. He's CEO, I'm the football manager. We work together. We discuss everything. He gives me advice on some things. I give him advice on certain things. We use his skill set, my skill set, to make Bradford City better. Hopefully, I've been a 19-year-old player. I've been a 39-year-old player. I've been older than a manager that I played for. Do you know what I mean? So, and the one thing, when I was 19, I wanted to be picked because I was good enough. When I was 39, I wanted to be picked because I was good enough. I didn't want to be judged by my age or this, that, the other. I would be the last person to judge anybody by anything so futile as that, to be honest. I treat everybody or judge everybody by how we talk, act, behave, this, that, the other. So, I can't really go any bigger than that, really, to be honest. two blokes working together. What more do I need to say? To be honest. Yeah.
And just on Doncaster, you're obviously playing them 3 times in a short period of time.
Yeah.
There are 3 debutants on Saturday, I think 2 of whom were cup tied when you saw them on Tuesday.
Right.
So are you expecting 3 quite different teams in terms of personnel for those games?
No, not too much, because I thought they played well the other day. I'm sure Grant was pleased with their performance and their result. But when you bring players in and to help improve your team, you're going to want to use them. But I can't read Grant's mind. I don't know how pleased he was with their performance the other night, but I watched it myself. I'd have been quite happy with it. So, my biggest focus is on getting my selection right and getting the team to play at its maximum potential and level, and that's regardless of the opposition. But we'll have an idea of what it potentially could be, and then really you only find out 75 minutes before kick-off and when the team sheets come in, but you've probably gone over that sort of potential scenario and you go with whatever you see. So but they'll probably play in a similar style, regardless of the actual personnel in it, but they do have different options to play in a different way.
Because obviously you had a really good night a few weeks ago, probably took you about 15 minutes to find your feet as a team, and then after that a really good performance at Doncaster. No, I was delighted. You're right. I think we had to sort of it was a competitive game. It was a Yorkshire derby. We had a massive following. It was just before Christmas, so there was a lot of that, and it wasn't it didn't settle down for either team until probably 20 minutes in. But by then, both teams had scored, and we sort of got the upper hand and deservedly won the game in my opinion. So, it'll be there's been a lot of football played between then and now. So, we have to make sure that we're as positive as we were at that night. I mean, that's kind of what I was going to ask. Can you learn a lot from that, or the fact that there has been so much football played, how it changes to both squads? Yeah,
I think but I think it's the same in every game that you plan for. There's probably 70-75% of it that you're pretty sure what you're going to find, and then there's another 25% that can change from game to game, or like you say, over the course of a month. So there's always that scope to the game to look differently, or the opposition to look differently. But like I said, you could play the exact same 2 teams and it'd be a different game altogether. So that's the nature of football and professional sport. But we're looking forward to the game. It's we need to get back to winning ways. Our performance has been strong, but we haven't picked up the wins that we want. So we have to do that sooner rather than later.
And you talked a bit with Jamie about conversations with Jake, with Diane, presumably with Harry as well. How important is honesty when you're managing these players in January, so that they know where they stand and you don't end up keeping an unhappy player or moving on wrong? You don't want to.
It's not about keeping an unhappy player, because I think sometimes you have to do that. That's the thing. But I think it's good to have communication where they're not wondering what you're thinking. That's what I spoke to Jake about. I said, there's a lot of talk out there, but you haven't actually heard me speak. So I wanted to just put you in the picture in case this is what you're getting from other people. This is exactly what I think about the situation. This is what I exactly think about you. I did the same with Verdane. I do the same with any player that knocks on my door and wants to speak, or if I pull them in to speak. I think sometimes I say things that they don't particularly want to hear or like to hear, but it is the truth, or it is my truth and how I want to, or I see the thing, and then they can manage the situation a little bit better because they have more info. And but it's not a case of right, how can we help you get exactly what you want?
Yeah,
contracts are there for a reason. To hold both parties to account, or to their responsibilities. So I think I just like I said, I felt Jake needing maybe a little bit of empathy and advice on a situation he might not have had previously. I've experienced a lot as a manager, and I experienced it not a lot but a few times as a player. So I just wanted to sort of so he went home, and if anyone asked what does the manager think, he knew exactly how to answer it, because I told him exactly how I thought. So I think it is important. To have that honesty and respect. But sometimes 2 different parties want 2 different things, and then you have to find a sort of a happy medium. But ultimately my responsibility is to do the best for Bradford City, but I also take into account my responsibility to each individual player and how I can help them.
Because I guess it will extend beyond the individuals. Word will get around that this is a manager who'll be straight with you, or this is a manager who won't. So it will have an impact, won't it?
Yeah, well, my reference point is my own career. So if I'd rather be told a hard truth than a soft lie. To be honest, at least you know where you stand. And I know the times that happened to me in my career where I didn't particularly like the conversation, but at least I went, well, I know where I stand now. And as I got older, actually that's the best way to go about it. You don't want to, oh, that was good, but you don't play for another 6 months. It's a load of rubbish then, wasn't it? So for me, I try to marry up doing the best for Bradford City, win as many games as possible, do that, but also enhance the players' careers, understand that I've been there as a player and I understand it, but my responsibility is to Bradford, so I didn't, I'm here for you, I'm here for Bradford, but I don't want to just be on one line. It's and I do want my players to trust me if they can, and it's because it's a difficult sport, football. There's a lot of noise, a lot of messages you get from different types of people, and I've been there, and so I try to be somebody where if they want a bit of plain truth, they can get it from me, and that's it just helps me sleep at night, to be fair. I need my kip.
I mean, it was very stable here, post Notts County for the back end of the year in terms of the group of players you were working with and all that sort of thing. Is January just a month where you've talked in these presses all month about being adaptable? Is that like the key thing for a manager this time of year?
I've only learned that over experience. When you go in, December, we're going to do this, we're going to do that, do this, and that's what we'll look like. And then you get to February and go, well, that didn't happen, and this didn't happen, and that came from nowhere. So over the years, I've learned how to sort of be ready, try and have our targets, our ideas about what we want to get out of the window, and like I say, ultimately, it's all right. Can we come out of it better than we went into it? That's the ultimate aim. So, but it's the same in life, football. You don't know what can happen tomorrow, so you've got to be ready to adapt and not lose your composure, not lose your senses, and just go, okay, how can we make the best of this scenario for our club? And it's it's helped me over the last few years manage these situations and try and maybe my discussion with Jake has come from my experience. I might not have had that discussion 7-8 years ago with a player. I might have been a bit more abrupt, but I just wanted to see it from his perspective as well. And there was a part of it, it wasn't me just talking to him. I wanted to get his thoughts on how he felt the whole scenario was going as well, and what he ultimately wanted. So that's it's just I think a grown-up way of doing things, to be honest.
So were you almost planning too much when you started in management, planning things that weren't in your control?
Well, well, that's it. I think you think everything's in your control, and you can control every scenario and an outcome, and ultimately you can't influence it. You can try and manage it to the best way possible. Ultimately, you probably can't control absolutely everything. So just having that mindset, you can influence it. You can come out for the best outcome, but it might not go that way. And so that's it's the same as anything in life. You do it enough, if you got anything about it, you should learn from it and try and act better in the future. So so we'll see what the next what day we're on, 18th, 19th or something. Next 10 days bring. It's more exciting for other people than me, to be honest, but my focus is on trying to win games as well as that.
And I won't ask you about Tyrell because obviously you were managing him this time, but just in general with young players, do they have to be careful about making the jump up too soon, or in the case of Rayan, not getting stuck somewhere where they're not playing enough football? Do they have to be very picky about all those things?
Look, there's no guarantees.
No.
There's no guarantees. So if you're going to ask a player, don't move from League Two to the Championship, why would you give that advice? It's because ultimately players, like myself, you know the odds of making it as a player before you're a player. They're very, very minute. But you back yourself and you put yourself in and say, but I think I can do it. I think I can do it. You have to have that belief in yourself and that confidence. So you can't go turn down a club going, I probably won't play there. I don't think that should enter your mindset. There's a balance between young players going to a massive jump where you go, well, actually, you're going to take a step backwards because you might not go first in football. I think that is coming more apparent with players in their thinking, certainly young players. So, you know, look, it's and sometimes, and listen, this is me, you make a decision because you feel it's right at the right time. It's only hindsight that you look back and you might have made a mistake or something like this. But, you know, it's you know, if you don't go for it, then you're never going to go anywhere, are you? If you don't back yourself and go for something that you feel is positive at the time. So, you know, Tyreek at the time made a move that he thought was the best thing for him. And, you know, ultimately that might be the case going forward. You just don't know what's around the future in the future. But right here, right now, he thought the best thing was coming back to Bradford to get his career back on track, to actually play the games. But yeah, he also understands that he's got competition here. It's not a case of just walking into a team and this, that, the other. There's a good squad here, good players, and but I think that good players thrive on that sort of competition and the environment, and that's why we try to create it, because I think the best players thrive in those sort of scenarios, to be honest.